In an interview, it's a performance. They want you to see them as something. How are we going to adapt, and how are we going to make this possible for unlimited people? At times, a lot of people questioned that, and they thought, is this too early, or is this going to work?
Welcome to the X3 podcast, your destination for business, sport, and people. And before you get to our guest, today our guest is a psychologist, is a successful businessman, and also an athlete. But before getting to him, I would like to ask you to subscribe to our channel and also follow us on the social media. And today, you're going to have an opportunity to know Stephen Reyes, but Coach Steve, as I call you every day, right?
You can call me that.
I'm not going to call you about Stephen because I heard about that's how your mom called you.
It is, yeah. So
when you were involved in bad behavior, right?
It all tense if you call me Steven. Yeah, Steve is good.
So it's good. It's going to go by Steve. And it is a pleasure to have you here. Steve is a friend of mine. I know him very well, his family as well. And as a very humble person, as you will see throughout the interview. And yeah, I just found out a few things about him today, just making me admire you even more, Coach Steve. So, Steve, for those people who doesn't know you, let's start from you, like you're Canadian, right?
Sure, yeah. Born and raised in Canada. In fact, on my dad's side, they've been here 4 generations. So
4 generations?
When living and working in Vancouver, you don't meet many people from Canada, but also with a history of being in Canada. So I was born and raised in Alberta. I moved to Vancouver.
How was your childhood in Alberta?
But I loved my childhood. It was almost like you see a postcard of Canada. There was snow 8 months of the year. It was like wildlife. And I grew up in a small town for most of it in central Alberta near Edmonton, and played hockey in the winter and, explored nature and stuff like that. And even as a teenager, I moved out to a farm. So I lived in the natural Canadian environment. And also, compared to my life now, there was a lot of silence. It was a lot of absence of people. There weren't people around.
Really?
People were far apart. Even, in the country there, if you are driving and you pass someone, you wave, even though you might not know them because you don't see people very often, stuff like that. So I liked it a lot. And my parents were both teachers, and an older brother and sister, and we had a really good childhood. I loved it, but I always felt like something was missing. I wanted adventure.
And how was your first adventure?
Well, I got to travel a bit. My parents were adventurous too, so they took us to Europe when I was 8, and that opened my mind. I just saw different ways of living, different languages, different people, and I think at that point I just thought, okay, once I'm done here, finish high school, I'm leaving. And I always knew I was going to leave Alberta, even though I loved it. There was something missing, and
you think it was too quiet?
Yeah, it was too quiet. And it was almost like I got to know that part of life. And now I wanted something different, something new, something more, maybe more exciting. And in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to study afterwards. And I had many interests. One of the things that I really liked doing was music. I was pretty accomplished in music. So as a guitar
player. You were playing with guitar?
Yeah, I was a guitar player. So
you should have long hair.
I did, yes. And I loved every kind of music. And I entered a music school right after and did 2 years in music school. And then I started playing in bands and traveling.
Really?
And
you went on tour?
18, 19. And I ended up
which kind of music
in Vancouver? I would play everything. So whatever was paying the bills. So a lot of bars, we were playing rock and like classic rock stuff. I even played some country. At one point, I even got hired by a reggae band playing reggae.
No, you went from rock to reggae.
And I studied jazz in music school, so I was sometimes playing in cafes playing jazz. And I ended up in Vancouver. One of the bands I played in, the guy needed a roommate and he lived in Vancouver and said, "Do you want to move?" And I packed up my car and left, and I was just 20 at that point and loved Vancouver, did the musician life for another year or so. And then I thought, I need to go back to school. I had a real hunger to learn.
Well, go back to Alberta.
No, I thought back to school for me went to university.
To university in Vancouver.
In Vancouver. So I ended up studying psychology, ended up at UBC here.
Why you pick psychology?
I always was fascinated by people and people's stories, how people were different, people's skills and talents and
That
all this
experience,
stuff.
playing music
Yeah.
and travel around, do you think is part of
I think so. I met so many different, unique people and just started to recognize there's something really deep here that I want to understand. There's something about the human condition and the human soul that I need to learn more about. And that's what drew me to psychology. And I really loved learning about it. I loved being a student. And near the end of my first degree, I had to start thinking about what I was going to specialize in because there's many different specializations within psychology. I really wanted to help people, so I thought maybe I would go into therapy. And I did some volunteer work as a crisis counselor, and I found it way too difficult for me. Like it was bothering me. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't stop remembering some of the calls. And I thought, I want to do psychology, but I want to do something that's not so like emotional and that kind of thing. And I started thinking that people's careers were very important. The work that they do, they spend most of their waking hours, most of their life working. And there's many people who don't like their jobs.
Okay.
So they don't like their jobs. They don't like working. They're spending most of their life doing it, and they're not a good fit for their job. So I thought, this is an area that needs help. There's a lot to be solved here, and I'm going to go into that area. So that's how I picked my specialization of, I studied occupational psychology. I went on to do a master's degree in that, but I always wanted to help people with their careers and in the workplace. So
but your master's degree wasn't in Vancouver, wasn't in UBC.
No, I did.
UK,
well,
right?
yeah, it's a UK program. I was able to do a lot of the work from here, which was good.
Went back in.
Yeah, so that I needed to do that. I needed an advanced degree for the credibility, but I was already working. And my boss at the time was a professor at UBC. He had a consulting company on the side, and he was developing these tests for hiring or for people who are already employed to see what their strengths were, see their personalities, sometimes their mental abilities. And then we were creating almost products, like ways to test people, all the mathematical calculations of the tests, taking the data, and then saying which job should the person
But
do.
all the task was towards the jobs.
Yeah, all job related. But at that time, it was all on paper. And this was pre-internet. So this is like in the mid 90s. And then technology came and I started thinking, okay, this is great what we're doing, but maybe we can use technology.
How are you going to adapt?
Yeah. How are we going to adapt and how are we going to make this possible for like to scale it, to make it the ability to send it out to how many people, unlimited people to do these tests. Because at that time I had to sit down with people. I'd have them fill out a paper test and I'd have a stopwatch and like all this stuff. And then the internet came and it was like, okay, this is going to go on the internet. I didn't know anything about the internet. I wasn't.
Have to learn.
No. So we hired software developers and eventually it led to our current business. That's kind of how my upbringing led to my job, I guess, at that point.
Okay, so if this personality test, for you do, it's just great. And I really take my attention to know what would be the red flags of bad people. How are you going to flag them? What do you see as, no, what that would be?
Yeah, there are some things. So there's some things that are really dependent on the job. Like if you're dealing with people all day, you need to be outgoing and be comfortable with that interaction. But there's other things that are deeper, like values of people that are way more important, and you must have them. So bad hires, usually it's a values fit that doesn't work. The person doesn't have integrity, like they don't do what they say they want to do, or they're not honest. Or responsibility, they don't complete what they've been given. The other ones are aggression control, like can they hold their temper? Can they be, thinking clearly in a confrontation or a conflict? Things like that. There's a few other ones, but a lot of the red flags are really just about being a reliable person.
So people with value,
Yeah.
you have more chance to be hired
Yeah.
overall.
Overall.
You say that.
Yeah.
Do you have this, let's put it that way, and then that can be a new business for you, see?
Yeah.
If for people getting married, okay,
Yeah.
they find a new girlfriend and then contact you,
Yeah.
Can you run a test on this person? So, relationship, that will work.
Yeah, we haven't done it. We haven't created anything around relationships, but this stuff is, it's very similar. When you're working with people, you're day to day dealing with them, trying to communicate with them and, make things smooth. And in a relationship, it's similar. So we've had people who said, I gave the test to my husband, or I gave them the test to my partner, or whatever, and it made me understand them a bit better. So I'm not angry with them as much. I just think, oh, that's them. That's how they see things. It's different than me, but it's not wrong. So it can help. But our tests are for the workplace. But we've had people use it for that kind of thing.
So anything you remember in this 12 years,
Yeah.
something you remember was very funny, or a result, or something that happened with a process, or also something very bad.
Yeah. There was one time when we tested someone who we tested a group of people, and one of the group, the results came back and it was just really bad. Like the person had the lowest scores possible. It said they were unsafe. They were, basically do not hire this person.
At all.
And we didn't know anything about these people. So we gave the results back and said, there's one of that bunch that the results are just horrible. And in my heart, I'm thinking, I hope we got this right, because I don't know what's going on with the data here. This is interesting. And they came back and they said, yeah, this guy used to work driving a truck, and then we put him in all these different roles, and he caused all these accidents and all these problems, and we don't know what to do with him. And so that was really funny, because it was kind of like we didn't know what to expect.
Was that bad? The data was that bad?
It was just, it was that bad. And then they came back to us and they said, well, he's not suitable for any job here. What can we do with him? And I said, yeah, he's got to find a different career. Absolutely. That was interesting. Yeah.
You see, when during the process, they have any way the person can cheat the test. It's have a way they can, because it's a test. They can prepare for that.
Yeah. They can try to cheat. We have things built into the test that if they're answering in a certain way that's kind of too good to be true, it will show up on the results. Like we have some questions that ask if they've never told a lie or something like that. If they say, yes, I've never told a lie, we know that, yeah. So we have questions throughout the test to kind of give us a red flag if it looks like it's not real, true responses. And the people, they have to go through that and complete those questions as well. So we would know if they were exaggerating, for example, because we have hundreds of thousands of people who have gone through this test. We know where the scores should be, and if it's outside, then it's a red flag. But sometimes people still try to cheat. The length of the test varies. If it's a complicated job, if it's a management job, they might have a test for an hour or hour and a half. And for some jobs, it's only a 20-minute test. So it varies. Some employers make them do the tests while they're on a video call to make sure that it's the same person doing
the test.
Or hold up their ID to the camera, that kind of thing. So that there's a number of things you can do to be more sure that it's, 100% that person completing it. We'll give guidelines on that. But there's always going to be people who try to cheat. And we do whatever we can to catch them.
Steve,
Yeah.
so I have a friend who's a cop, and he said every time he walk in a place, he look at everyone to try to spot who's a trap. And now we view with this all background, all knowledge we have, analyzing people personality. You do the same. Let's not as a threat, but try to walk in a place, and when you interact with people, you put it in the boxes. Like, this is a psycho. This is a good person. So you do that mentally?
Well, for me, my perspective is through the data of the test. So I wasn't trained on sitting down with someone and doing the interviews so much, but through learning about the different personalities, I definitely recognize them. One of the things that I always see is what gives people energy. So you can tell when someone's doing something, whether it's something that energizes them, that it's in line with who they are, or whether it's draining them and not working for them. So I know, even with friends, that if there's someone who has to be organizing things and making things so precise and like the planner of the group, we've gone on group vacations before, and there's one of our friends who's a planner. If she's not the planner, everything falls apart and she's unhappy. So we make her the planner. She loves it. It makes her feel energized. That's it. You can see those things in every person. And even on the mats or people that I deal with, like, I know you're an innovator. You have to innovate. You have to keep pushing the boundaries. You have to be experimenting with new ideas. That's what gives you energy. Who would take that away from you? Like, when you see that in kids or other people, you need to really kind of form their options around what energizes them. Give them the ability to use their strengths.
You know what? It just makes me feel so special to be your friend, because you analyze me and say, this guy can be my friend, right? Okay, you're gonna do assessment on me, okay? Steve, throughout the podcast, sure. And at the end, you're gonna let me know if I'm fit to a podcast or not. Okay?
Yeah.
So the perfect person to do this job. So Steve, and then you start when the TalentClick was born. Like, when was the start of the TalentClick is your company?
The first 8 years of my career doing this specialization of testing, I worked for other people. And I was happy doing that, but always in my mind, I thought, at some point, I'm going to do this on my own. At some point, I'm going to take what I've learned and open my own business. And it took, I think, 8 years for me to really get the knowledge I needed.
You're working your craft. Learning.
And then at that point, I was working for someone else. It was okay. Everything was great, except I didn't have that entrepreneur.
You didn't have the background, the business background, because your parents are teachers, right?
I didn't have the business background at all.
Where do you learn that?
I had to learn it through mentors.
Okay.
And people that just showed me, even though I didn't know anything. And I did a lot of reading, and I would just try to learn from really good business people. And I was really fortunate to have mentors in my life at that time who wanted to teach me. They were fascinated with what I knew, but I wanted what they knew. So we were almost exchanging knowledge, right? And after that first 8 years of working for other people, it was actually my brother-in-law, who's my business partner now, approached me and said, let's open our new business. I'm quitting where I'm doing. And he was a recruiter, like a corporate recruiter. So related to what I did.
That's Greg.
Greg Ford. And he said, let's do it. And that was the time. And I said, okay, let's do it. And we just made the jump 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
And we started with just some ideas of what we wanted to do, but with a real motivation to make our mark, develop this.
Everything online. at this
Everything
point?
online.
When you
Yeah.
decide to start it, everything's going to be
Everything's going to be online. We're not consultants. We don't fly around and interview people in person. We're going to do it all online with technology. And from the beginning, that was our business model, and we stuck to it, even though at times a lot of people questioned that and they thought, is this too early or is this going to work? But
You started a new thing inside the industry, right?
yeah, it was a new way of doing business. Yeah.
That's
It's almost like if you think of how COVID changed the way we do business, now it's okay to have Zoom calls. Now it's okay to have, other ways of having a team meeting, for instance. That's what we did. It used to be you had to sit down with a psychologist. And now we said, no, you can do the test remote from wherever you are. You can even do it on your phone. You can do it, in many different ways. And by doing that, we were able to have many customers. I think we have about 100 countries where people are doing assessments using our products right now. We have 27 different languages. So we just didn't see any barriers. We wanted to just make it global.
But let's go back 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Because nowadays it's easy, Steve, for you come for a client and explain, look, because everything online, everything is fine, right? That's normal. 12 years ago, how hard was to convince a client your job, everything you do, you'll be online?
Yeah, it was hard. We had to find clients that were innovators.
Okay.
And that's harder. In my experience, that's harder in Canada as well, because we often follow what's going on in the US.
In the US.
Or other people do it first and then we follow. So we had to find clients that were willing to do new things and try new things, and we did. And what we found was the clients who had jobs that were people doing safety sensitive work where they could be injured or where there could be a lawsuit or something like that, they were willing to try anything because it wasn't working for them. They would hire a bunch of people, they would put everybody through the same training program and then hope for the best. And they didn't know anything about what made those people unique. They didn't know who was more likely to be distracted or who was more likely to take stupid risks or who was more nervous or anything like that. So we said, we can give you that understanding of these people before they start working. And they said, oh, wow, like that's fascinating. Can we try it? And so we had to be willing to say, we're going to let you try it and charge you very little, and just we're going to prove ourselves to you. And that's how it started. So we got those first clients they had a real problem they needed to be solved. We offered a solution, but they were willing to take the leap and try it. And then from there, we had them as reference accounts. We got recommendations.
That was the breakthrough point?
That was the breakthrough point. Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy.
So that was 12 years ago. And then we've just grown it. We still have a very small team, but with our model of using everything online, we can reach the whole globe without, hiring people all over the globe.
And I was looking at our webpage, it's TalentClick.com, and you have apps, you have all the system. They log in. Of course, I don't have other account, but that's what it seems like. They log in, they have all the access there.
Yeah, that's it. And we make it simple to use and just try to provide a lot of value. And our value is understanding people, because it's that same thing that fascinated me when I was a young man, which was basically, wow, people are so unique and so different. And if we can give that insight to employers, it's huge value to them, because most challenges these days are people challenges,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
In one way or another. And sometimes we give the insight to the person themselves. If they're saying, I don't know what I'm good at, or,
and then
we give them a copy of the results and they say, oh, wow, I didn't know that I was, persuasive and I could motivate others. I've never tried that before. And we're telling them, this is a strength that you didn't even know you had. Try it. And we get feedback from employers of how we've helped them so much, but also from individual people, because again, they have to be happy in their job too.
Yeah.
They have to be using their strengths, but sometimes they don't know their strengths. So if we help them recognize their own strengths, then they're more satisfied, and they're a better employee in the end. So,
which the kind of jobs is for you is the most important for like, we have to get this right because this person cannot make mistakes.
Yeah, police is one. We do work with new recruits of police officers, people who want to be police officers, that we need to know who they are and what they're made of, because they have to have not only the right motivations, but they have to be able to handle the job. And mistakes as a police officer are just, they can be, sometimes they're not their own fault. A lot of the time it's just the environment that they're put into. And if we can understand how they will react, that's better. One interesting one we do a lot of, believe it or not, is bus drivers, which is, you don't think of that as a very important job, but they're responsible for the lives of everyone on board. And they have to interact with the public and focus on, in a busy city, driving this bus through all sorts of unpredictable things while people are asking them questions, while people might be...
Never thought about
it. So one of our big clients is Chicago Transit. So all the bus drivers who start there, it's a very difficult city to be a bus driver in, as you can imagine, go through our assessments. That's part of their hiring process.
As soon as you said bus driver, they came in my mind pilot. But when you start to explain about the job of bus driver, they're not as stressful as a pilot.
No.
Because the pilot is locked in his...
Yeah, they don't interact with the passengers. They don't have a passenger coming up to them and asking something ridiculous or threatening them or who knows what.
And the probability to have a crash, a bus crash, is way bigger than the airplane to crash.
So there are many jobs like that you don't think about, but they are very important. And then there's other jobs where people work with dangerous materials. Oil and gas is one that we have done a lot of work in. If there's an accident or an explosion or something, it's a catastrophe. But there's other jobs that are just...
So if I want to hire a new head instructor for one of my schools, I can open
an account.
Open account with you,
and you can use our tests.
And I have to tell the instructor to create their profile there, or I have to send...
No, you would simply just send them a link.
That's it.
They'd get the link, they'll do the assessment, you'll get 2 copies of the report. One is for you as an employer, the other one is if you want to share it with them. It's good for them to look at.
And then you do assessment with the employer to know exactly
what the job is.
The job is.
Yeah, and we have tools for that. So you would complete a set of questions to tell us about the job. So again, it's as efficient as possible so we don't have to sit down with everybody. And then we match the people to the job. So that's how it works.
I think you got one client here.
Oh, good.
Next time I'm going to hire an instructor. And I'll go through you.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know better than most people. Like, everyone is so unique.
It is.
And you don't see it until...
Something happens.
You just put them in a situation and you're surprised. Like, how did you react like that? I never saw that.
And they're both ways.
Yeah.
It's a good surprise and a bad surprise.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes it's the people who, because at least in North America, we rely on the interview. We interview someone and we think that we can know who they are from an interview. And in an interview, it's a performance. They want you to see them as something they're not going to talk about, or they might not even know their weaknesses or areas that their strengths. So the interview is just the surface, right? So you need to get deeper to understand the person. And one way is to have them work for you for a long time. You can watch and see little by little, but a lot of employers can't do that. They need someone to start. They need to take a chance.
I was watching one of the videos of Gary Vee. He's a big time on the marketing and sales on the internet. And he was telling about that. So every time when I'm going to hire someone, I never call for his former employer or whatever they give as a reference. I never call because they're not going to give a reference for someone that they have a bad experience.
It's true. Yeah.
Right. So they're always going to give a reference for have a good experience. And then he says about that, he says the person's there, they're doing their best. to get the job.
Yeah.
So it is hard for you hire someone, and you hire not someone, but hire exactly what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
It comes in a package, and I think that's what's unique in what you do, because you deliver closer to what the company wants.
Yeah.
Right.
That's our goal, is to give them what they want, but have them have more data to make their decision, because otherwise they're just almost blind.
Blind.
Yeah. And that's a big decision. It's your culture. It's your reputation. It's everything, especially if they're going to be customer facing. Like,
liability.
this is a big risk.
It's like a cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Especially those kinds of roles. But yeah, it's a big decision.
See, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And I know we know each other for a long time, but I knew you had a business, but not in that proportion.
Yeah, so
That's great to see.
I love the work. I love the business. It's a field that's always evolving too. So I'm not bored of it at all. But I've been very lucky, and I was lucky to take that jump 12 years ago to say now's the time, or take advantage of the opportunity to jump and say now we're going to do it our own.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the Jiu-Jitsu brings together so many good people in so many different backgrounds.
Yeah,
right?
It does.
And then let's start to talk about that. Now we talk a lot about your business. I'm surprised, how you structure everything, how great it looks, and how help companies. Right? I never thought about that. You gave the example of the bus driver, and some of them we never thought about.
No.
The bus driver can just bus around.
Yeah, anyone can do it. Right?
Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
No. You just broke down like every single thing they do.
Yeah,
it is stressful.
Yeah,
right. And that I'm just fascinated, Steve. And I'm saying next time I'm gonna hire an employee, special head instructor. Going, Steve,
happy to help.
Gym every day. So I say, Steve, take him.
Yeah. Happy to help. I'm ready.
So, and you see about sports. So you talk about a lot of business. Now I want to know a little bit sport. You said you always was involved in sport since your childhood.
I was. Yeah, typical Canadian. I played hockey when I was growing up until I was 12 or 13. Then I didn't want to play hockey anymore. One thing I loved was wrestling. That's a big sport in Alberta, in the kind of the prairie provinces. And I just loved the feeling I had when I wrestled. I wasn't a great wrestler, but I was just...
But you like it.
I loved it. I loved that feeling of close contact. I loved the sparring. I loved learning the moves. And then, it was something that stuck with me. Even though after high school, I didn't wrestle. I didn't wrestle in college or university. But that feeling, I found it again later in life. Like, I would say after high school, I didn't do any martial arts. All I did was, I played soccer, I would cycle, I'd go to the gym, I kept fit. And then it wasn't until my late, 46, when I started jiu-jitsu. So my story, when I tell it, I always say that when I tried jiu-jitsu, it brought back that
good
happy feeling of wrestling, and that same feeling that you just have, some people just know that feeling where it's just like, you just love it. And I was lucky to find it again. I was, well, we can tell the story of how I started jiu-jitsu, but I was always an athlete, maybe less of an athlete in my 30s and 40s, but it was always important to me. Sports was always part of my life. And I was glad to regain it later in life.
So you have 2 kids, right?
I do, yes.
And a boy and a girl, right?
Yeah, Maya and Alex, yeah.
Everything started with Alex, is that correct?
It did. So he started jiu-jitsu when he was, I think, 5 or 6.
And why you put in jiu-jitsu? What?
It was recommended, actually, by a friend of his, Mateo. He knew from daycare. And Mateo, if you remember Mateo and Andrew and that family, they said, Alex would really like this. Why doesn't he try it? And they went to Gracie Barra in the Main Street location, and we thought, okay, we'll see if he likes it. And he liked it immediately. He loved it. It was so much fun for him.
He started at 5 years old. Right?
Yeah. And that's early, but they have so much fun on the mat. It's not just learning jiu-jitsu. They play games, they build relationships, they learn how to, get along with others, and there's so much more. And he loved it. And I was watching the classes and I thought, there's a kids class going on this mat, and there's an adults class going on that mat. That's interesting. And I found myself watching the adults class a bit more than the kids class, which is bad parent. But I was thinking, can I do this? Can I do that? And I was watching, are there any older guys doing it, this and that? And you encouraged me to try it, to start. Why aren't you joining? And that kind of thing. And then one of my friends, Jose Gonzalez, who...
Yeah, Jose Gonzalez. Yep.
I knew him from years before, and he was there with his kids. And he's like, Steve, why aren't you doing it? I'm doing it. And I'm just coming back from a back injury, and like, come on, join. So I was 46, and I thought, okay, I'm a bit hesitant because I'm older. I don't want to get hurt. I have some injuries, but I'm going to try it. And one day I joined that class, the 4 p.m. class that was going on at the same time as the kids. And from that first class, I was hooked. But the first class was so difficult for me. I barely made it through the warm-up. And I thought I was really fit, but I went way too fast and tried way too hard, and then I ran out of gas. So I had to learn how to handle that, but I loved it from the first class. And I just kept going after that. So,
and now, like, you train and you're both of our kids train, right?
Yeah, and then Alex soon after that, my daughter joined, Maya, who's 2 years older than Alex, and she's really into it. They both still train at Main Street, and Maya loves competing. She's just really passionate about competing and loves that pressure. Alex likes to train, but doesn't like to compete, which is fine. And now I can train with both of them, and I can share jiu-jitsu with them. And it's something that's brought us together. And especially now that Alex is almost a teenager, but I consider both of them teenagers. That's a time when sometimes you drift apart from your kids, especially these days. And it's something that we can have as the core kind of an anchor for us. I will practice with Maya. She's preparing for a competition. She wants me on the mat with her to go through her routine. Or we'll do the same class together. Tuesday and Thursday, we're in the same class. And on other days, Alex will join my class that I'm helping Papa Pasquale teach. So it's something that's just so important in our family to have us doing this together. And it's a routine as well. Like, we're used to this. This is normal for us. Mm-hmm. It's normal for us to all do the same sport, to all struggle with it, to all win and lose and be frustrated and be happy. All three of us go through that. And it's just great. We're really, really blessed to have that.
So the jiu-jitsu really transformed the way of your family was.
Yeah.
Interacting and moving forward.
Yeah. And I think for me, as someone with a psychology background, I see the changes that it makes to how people think. And for me, it's really helped me in so many ways of having more persistence, not giving up, knowing when to give up, knowing when to tap, knowing when to start over, being okay with losing, all those things. And those are lessons that they've learned as part of their growing up. And they just deal with the challenges of life so much better than they would have if they didn't have jiu-jitsu. Like, it's just amazing to see how resilient they are. If they get knocked down, they come back up. Yeah.
And you receive as a psychologist.
Yeah.
What's changed in Steve before start jiu-jitsu and now?
Some of it, yeah. For myself, as someone with my specialization, you're focused on thinking and very mental, the stuff that just goes on in your head. And I didn't have that connection to the body. Like having an outlet where you're expressing yourself through jiu-jitsu. When you learn something, it's also a physical thing. That's so important for health and for mental health. So if I look at my mental health and my overall health as a person now compared to before jiu-jitsu, I'm way more healthier now. It's just, everything is connected. It's just something that is beneficial for your whole body, whole life, brain, body, spirit. Everything is together and brought together with jiu-jitsu. And I was missing that piece before. As a business person, you're always thinking, you're always calculating, you're always trying to anticipate. It's all, you get stuck in your head. And if you don't have this physical way of getting that out or expressing yourself, you're missing out a lot. So that's a big part of it. The other part is with business, a lot of what you try won't work. Like, maybe 1 out of every 4 ideas we tried worked. But we had to be okay with 3 not working out. And that used to really bother me. Why didn't this work out? We put so much effort into this and all this stuff.
Jiu-jitsu taught you.
Jiu-jitsu changed my way of thinking. Like, if that doesn't work, try something else. It's okay if that didn't work on it later, fine-tune it later, tap, start over. Just like a completely positive way of looking at challenges.
So the jiu-jitsu ended up help you as well, not only the connection with your family, but also in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Help my business, the way I look at business problems, the way I look at business challenges, the way I look at life, relationships, all of that stuff is really improved by jiu-jitsu.
I come from the same background in you, Steve. Like my parents, my father was a PE teacher. Yeah. And then my mom was working for the government and zero business background. And a lot, of course, it put a lot of time, the same you did when you began, a lot of time to understand, a lot of study. But the jiu-jitsu gave that foundation.
Yeah.
That's what you're explaining right now as you're going back. And I say, I use the same foundation and I have the jiu-jitsu who came first in my life. And I use that foundation, the mindset it just gives you.
Yeah.
To don't accept defeat, especially jiu-jitsu. That's what I like to say. You train in boxing, train boxing. It's a beautiful martial arts or any taekwondo. You got a kick in the head, you got a knockout.
Right.
You don't come back for more. From there, you go home, right? But jiu-jitsu, you got a caught in an armbar, you tap. And then what you do right after that? You shake hands and you start it again.
Yeah.
It's no time to cry, no time to complain.
Yeah.
And you have to focus again. Otherwise, you're going to get caught again.
Yeah.
And that changes the way your brain works. Because when you get defeat or we fail, it's normal. We go for that process.
Mm-hmm.
The way you train jiu-jitsu doesn't allow you that.
No.
And now
you have to adapt.
You have to adapt. And when you get that situation, you got a caught, you recognize and you react in a different way.
Yeah.
And now you can get caught again, but that way didn't work. This way didn't work. Next time I'm going to try something different. And you always try to find different ways. And that's what's helped me a lot in business. Yeah. Like a big time. And for what you're describing, you have the same benefit.
Yeah. I feel it every day. And it's a skill set that is so important in the world today because everything changes so quickly. And we're in a very unpredictable time.
Yes.
And our kids are going to be in an unpredictable world. The way to have them happy and successful is to give them those skills, right? It's not passing on money to them. That might help, but it's not going to be enough. They need to be adaptive. They need to have the right mindset. They need to be someone who doesn't give up and is always, finding a way to solve their problems. So I think, even looking forward, I'm not worried about my kids making, a good life for themselves because they have the right attitude and the right mindset. And a lot of that is from training. It's not, a lot of it's from my wife as well. She's very, very tough and resourceful. So they get that from her, not me. But her and jiu-jitsu make them great people. Yeah.
That's great. So, Steve, going back now to you, right? And I also now you one of the coaches at the gym for brown belt, and have a parent sit in the sidelines, watch the kids training, decide to train, and get involved, and be today jiu-jitsu a big part of your life. And then we see going to a hobby and something you put a lot of time on, and you starting to test yourself in competition.
Yeah.
Even though you mentioned your son, Alex, is a great athlete as well, but he doesn't like compete.
Yeah.
And you don't push into it. Let
Right.
them like they decide.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Maya love it being tested.
Yeah.
And you put yourself to being tested as
Yeah.
well. So how was that process for you? And because unfortunately we see, you said when we start you are 46. Unfortunately, we don't see that same, the other martial arts schools create this environment was welcome literally to everyone,
Yeah.
right? And probably that was one of the reasons you took the first step because you felt
Yeah.
this is a nice place,
Yeah.
safe, I'm going to train. Walk us through for that moment, the environment you felt with your kids to start it, to be in a hobby, to get involved, and to test yourself in competition.
Yeah.
How was that process for you?
So the first part, the first few months were me really just getting a taste of it. What is this? And then I told you I loved it from the beginning, but realizing that it's a long path. And I was lucky to have professors like you who explain that it's a long path and that black belt is not the end of it.
No.
It's just the beginning.
Yep.
Right? So it's not like you ever learn it. You
Yep.
have to constantly learn it. And you have to be okay with that. Because if you think you're going to join and then in 2 years you'll know jiu-jitsu, no, like there's a reason why it takes, 7 to 10 years to get a black belt. And then you tell us that's just the beginning. So you have to be okay with this constant learning.
Constant.
And I love that part of it. But for some people, that's intimidating because they want an end point where, okay, now I know it. That never happens. So for me, getting used to it, I think as I started, I felt welcome. I had lots of support. It is absolutely jiu-jitsu for everyone in our gym. And I had everything I needed. The only thing I needed to bring was just to show up and keep training. And that's half the battle, was just showing up to class. And I did get a few injuries in my first few years, and my professors told me, still come to class. I know you can't train, but you're going to sit at the edge of the mat, or you're going to help, or you're going to do this. And that kept the consistency going. So that first part was me thinking, can I do this? Can I keep going? Feeling the support, keeping going, constantly learning. And then about the end of the first year, it seemed like I was starting to understand the basics. Like the first year was me just thinking, okay, this is really difficult, but I love it. And then all of a sudden, oh, wow, I can actually do that move that they showed 6 months ago. That took me a year, but then I did, right? And it was, that's a good feeling too. So you get little moments of accomplishment. Most of it is losing and, being humble. But then sometimes you get these moments where you're like, wow, I can't believe I did an armbar or like a triangle choke or something. And then, around blue belt, I started helping with the kids' classes. And for me, giving back is important. That's part of me. That's part of how I see being a good person, living a good life, is giving back. Don't just take. Like, you have to give back. And I would just help with the kids' classes. But then I started to see there's another path of knowledge for being an instructor, and that is another skill set layered on top of being a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. And I thought, I want both. I want to be good at jiu-jitsu, and I want to be a good instructor. And Then I just started volunteering to teach while I was training, and I do both now. That's what I do. And then I started competing, and that was really scary for me to compete.
I remember you were winning some matches against athletes. Could it be with the age? It could be your son.
Yeah. That was part of what was scary. I remember that one. Yeah, he was 17 years younger than me. I had those. I also had just other fights that were really tough, but I knew I needed to compete. It wasn't something that I could avoid and be okay with it. Like I knew I had to test myself in competition.
But you don't believe the way we train jiu-jitsu, you get everyday little doses of this confidence.
Yeah.
Right. Every day in the training, it's kind of like we don't push you because we know when you get there, you will feel ready and you say, I'm ready, I'm going.
Yeah. And I didn't compete as a white belt. I regret that now because I tell my students you should compete at every belt level. But as a blue belt, I did, and I started competing, and I don't think I ever really liked the feeling, but afterwards I was so tired because it was pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and it's a different experience. Like with the adrenaline and the feeling, it's similar to rolling and competing on the mat with your friends and having an open mat kind of thing, but it's quite different. Like it's something everyone should do. Yeah. And it's an important part. And that's why CompNet is so great. For those of you who don't know CompNet, that's almost like an in-school competition. It's safe, everyone's sharing your values and you're in good hands, but it's a competition. It's a real competition.
And when they shake your hands, it's on.
Oh yeah. And that's good. So that got me to the point where I had those three things going on: being good at jiu-jitsu, trying to be a good instructor, trying to learn that. And then I wouldn't consider myself having a competition focus, but I still think that's important. And I want to compete as a brown belt. I haven't yet, but I will. And having those pieces, in place and those three paths going on, that's important to me. And that's what I want to keep doing.
That's fantastic. You built that in 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
You built
7 years. Yeah. So
for someone who was sitting on the sidelines watching their kids training, and now you're a good instructor, you're a good athlete, and a good competitor. Like
that's I'm trying. I keep trying. But sometimes people say, how many years have you been training? We'll have that discussion. But some people train twice a week. And I did that for my first year, and then it was 4 or 5 times a week from blue belt to brown belt. So I think I need that much time, and everyone's different, but I'm trying to pack in as much as possible. I mean, we've had conversations about age and that kind of thing. Like my main goal is to do it until I'm 80 or 90. And to do that, I need to be smart. If my body is too sore, I need to take time off, or I need to go light, or I need to choose my partners carefully, or, don't do certain moves and stuff like that. But if you're smart about it and you're careful and you have good people around you, you could do it your whole life. That's what I want.
Let's give an advice for the schools out there.
Yeah.
Listen, is successful businessman was there at the gym, bringing his kids to train, and then 46 years old, decide training, right? So you school owners out there, build the jiu-jitsu for everyone. Now look to your school and understand you need to create atmospheres, welcome for kids, for women, for men, for everyone. And one thing we did was a nice to put the same time a class at the same time in the kids' class, because we were watching the parents who were there. And then we start to encourage them parents like, hey, why don't train? It's the same time, we're here. So there's such a training. And then we put also helping a lot was a Saturday class, kids and parents class.
Yeah.
The parents doesn't need to be a member. Just come to training for kids. That's the day when they play together. The kids got to teach the parents some moves here and there. And also we a few years ago we created the over 40 plus class.
Yeah, that's been a success too.
So that has been a success because you need to look for those people who are there and they will get so much benefit in jiu-jitsu, especially with their family, with their kids.
Yeah.
So if you're school owners, you listen to us and X3 podcast, please add that to your schedule. It's going to help a lot to your school to build a nice environment and have those kind of stories your members been telling how much they improved their life, how much they improved their business with jiu-jitsu, how much they improved their family. So Coach Steve, I have to tell you, I'm very proud of you.
Well, you've been a big influence and mentor for me. So this is a result of your dedication and hard work as well. You created this culture where this is possible.
Yeah, and you pass that on. Like what is nice for us is to see you understand what we're doing, and then you come put your flavor, your personality on it, and you go on your own. Like you're flying solo. So you're running your classes, you're helping, and you find your way of teaching to pass on your experience as well, your background you bring, and help others. Because that's the point, right?
It is the point, yeah.
As soon as you learn something, and I gave a speech one day, and they said the most important person in the class is not the black belt, it's the person on your left. Look to your left, the side of is your heart, that person on your left is the most important person. It's because on your left side is the person less ranked than you. Mm-hmm. So if we stand in the jiu-jitsu class, on my right side is going to be someone ranked than me, and on my left side is going to be less ranked. Yeah. With that understanding, the most important person is not who knows more than me, who knows less.
Yes, yeah.
And we dedicate ourselves and our energy to teach that person and walk in the path we did already.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we are doing. That's exactly what you were doing very successfully.
It works. Yeah. Take care of others. Help others. It's just, that's how you keep it going.
You see, just before we finish, it was a wonderful conversation so far. I wanted, because your background on technology and psychology is so deep in what you have done, build with your partner. If someone from technology field or someone from the psychology field is listening to us, what would be your advice for a young fella just left university right now and on the technology field or on the psychology field, listen to us right now? What would be your advice for them?
My advice would be to find a problem that others are struggling with and build something around that problem. So don't start with, this is a cool piece of technology, I wonder what it could do. It's, what is something people are struggling with right now? And can I build something to help them? So for us, it was understanding people. Nice. Can you build technology to help understand people? That's what we did. And starting from that, that's what we talked about before, helping people. If you can, as a, from the business perspective, help people with their businesses or whatever field you're in, you're providing value. So you need to start with that.
So if you want to check his website, it's TalentClick.com. And now the Coach Steve Brown Belt, your advice for parents or for people who are listening to us, they train jiu-jitsu, they don't train yet. Yeah. What would be your advice?
Well, first, it's never too late to start. Yep. I've had people start my classes or classes that I'm helping with into their 60s and do really well in jiu-jitsu and learn and just surprise themselves. So it's never too late, first of all. It's not too hard. You can create your own path of how fast you want to learn, how often you want to train, all of that stuff. But just give it a try and focus on just showing up. I tell some of my students that, master the art of showing up. Because once you get to the gym, we'll just carry you. It's like a big wave pushing you. you're not going to turn around and leave.
No.
You're not going to have half a participation. Once you're there, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So just come, like, just get there, and just all you have to worry about is getting there. The rest will be taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve, the X3 podcast, the X is for destination, right? That's where do we going? So
Yeah.
where did it be your X? If you put in your life an X to the destination we're going for 10 years from now, if 10 years from now you go back to
Yeah.
listen what you're talking right now, what do you be your prediction? Where is Steve as a business man, as an athlete, or as a father? Where does Steve will put the X in 10 years from now?
Wow. Well, as an athlete, I still want to be training, competing.
As a black belt?
As a black belt. Maybe competing as a black belt is a little intimidating, but yeah, it will still be a big part of my life. In fact, that would be, something that holds everything else together. I'll have my physical health because of it. I'll have my mental health because of it. That will be, something that's going to be a foundation.
The foundation.
Yeah. And teaching is very important to me. I think as I see myself evolving as a person, focusing more on teaching, passing it on to others, particularly passing it on to the people that are over 40 in our community and that kind of thing. And I want to be a much better teacher. I'm learning from you. I'm learning from Master Papa. I'm learning from so many people right now of just how to be a good instructor. Business, I think I'll work until, my last
day.
I love it. I'll probably work a little bit less.
And training more?
Yeah, training more will help me work less. Yeah, of course. But I'll still be involved. I might not be as involved, but I still want to help solve these problems. And my field is just so fascinating. I can't give it up. I'm never going to just step away from it. And then in 10 years, my kids will be, well on their way to having their own lives, and I'll just have a happy life. My wife, we threaten our kids that we're going to follow them wherever they live in the world. We're going to follow them. Yeah,
That's a big one, Steve.
but we'll travel a lot. My wife is in Europe. We often go to Europe for holidays and stuff like that. So we'll spend more time over there. But yeah.
So something I tell my kids.
We'll just continue the adventure.
Something I tell my kids, Steve, that they're just allowed to leave home when they got their black belt. Okay, so that's so they can only leave. That's that they got their black belt. They can leave.
Yeah, well, we expect both of our kids.
Yeah,
that's a given. They're going to get their black belt.
So, Steve, what a great conversation. You drop a lot of knowledge about the business, about the sport, and about people, about yourself and the people the way you think, the way you do things. That was the reason we created this podcast. That's the reason we call X3. It's not because we're sponsored by Elon Musk, but the X for destination. We look into the future, and the 3 is exactly what you talk about today: business, people, and sport. And you're doing the 3 of them very well. So congratulations for this hour.
Thank you very much.
I hope you all enjoy. And Steve, probably in 10 years from now, you're going to be back.
Yeah.
To
part 2.
To part 2. Not in 10 years. Probably before then, when you got a black belt.
Okay.
When you got a black belt. And for you at home, we hope you enjoyed this great conversation with Steve or Stephen Race, right? And I hope you enjoy. And if you like it, please share this video with your friends. And also don't forget to follow us on the social media and subscribe in our channel. Into the next episode. Bye-bye.